So here I'm going to be giving a ranking of all the movies in the MCU's Phase 4. Their Phase 4 concluded with Black Panther Wakanda Forever, so now would be as good a time as any to go through all of the movies and rank them accordingly from least favorite to my favorite, as I'll do here. Now, the general opinion has been that their Phase 4 has, well, not been their strongest phase by any means, but that doesn't mean it's not worth going through these movies and seeing why, so that's what I'll be doing here. Now, the reason I'm only doing Phase 4 is because at this point, when there's like almost 30 MCU movies, doing a whole ranking video would be pretty expansive and somewhat incomprehensible. So that's why I'm just limiting this to Phase 4 when it comes to movies, and also just movies and not the TV shows, as that's a different medium and it's sort of tough to compare, as both have their own advantages and disadvantages. So we'll just leave it as movies for now. Black Widow was at its best at the first 30 or so minutes of the movie, where it's replicating the same kind of tone and action as the Bourne Identity films. That was definitely when it was at its best, and Yelena and Red Guardian were the obvious standout characters here. But once you got to the second half of the film, particularly once they get to meet up at the house, the second half of the film was extremely uninspired, boring action, laughable Russian villain. What they did was Taskmaster was disastrous and definitely not what people, mainly fans, wanted. This movie overall felt like more of an obligation than having any real sort of inspiration or purpose, and really the only sole purpose of this film felt like what it was to introduce Yelena and Red Guardians in preparation for the upcoming Thunderbolts. So Thor Love and Thunder definitely was not without its moments of entertainment. I mean, Taika Waititi, his writing style and his directing style, the guy definitely knows how to entertain. But too often it felt like the movie was focused on jokes and its own political agenda, instead of focusing on Gore the God Butcher, the element I was most looking forward to in this film because of Christian Bale's casting. You know, his opening scene was great and it seemed like he was going to have a lot of depth. But after that, it was just sort of standard cliche villain fare and lacked the depth of the opening scene and not really worth Christian Bale's talents. I also wish we had gotten more of the Asgardians of the Galaxy that we saw in the beginning of the movie. I felt like that was when the movie was at its most fun. I still had a decent amount of fun with the movie, but it was definitely no Ragnarok in terms of the overall experience. I've gone back and forth on Eternals more than any other MCU film, to be honest. When I initially watched the movie, I was actually pretty impressed with it and how different it felt compared to the other MCU movies, mainly when it came to its story and its pacing. And then there was some crazy mythology, interesting mythology, when it came to the Celestials and the Eternals themselves. That was all pretty interesting to see take place. Upon rewatching the film, though, I did notice a decent amount of flaws when it came to various aspects of the movie. In all honesty, it's a tough film to think about, it's a tough film to rank, to sum things up without boring y'all. More of the movie worked for me than didn't, so that's why I have it ranked where I do. Shang-Chi was hardly a movie I was crazy enthusiastic about, but overall the movie had its priorities in the right place, in showcasing Asian culture, utilization of sort of Asian film techniques, a villain story with some nuance, and some decent action here and there. However, nothing about the movie really sort of wowed me, which is why I've never been quite as enthusiastic as the Rotten Tomatoes score suggests that I should be, but overall the movie, it was good, but definitely not great. I feel a lot of viewers' dissatisfaction with Multiverse of Madness was that the movie did not include some of the stuff they thought it would include, or maybe sort of subverted expectations. I don't know if that's really a flaw with the movie, maybe more so expectations. However, I really enjoyed the horror elements that were included here. I mean, that's a Sam Raimi special, obviously. Scarlet Witch was an absolute badass. I loved her villainous turn here, and there were plenty of other fun moments here, such as the various visual sequences, the Illuminati, or seeing undead Doctor Strange do his thing. I mean, that was crazy to watch towards the end of this movie. Wakanda Forever had a tall task ahead of it in following the phenom that was the original film and having to pay tribute to the late Chadwick Boseman, which ended up in this film being completely rewritten essentially. But under Ryan Coogler's leadership, we got a film that was emotional and epic, and showed that the world and characters of Wakanda are something truly special in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't think any movie experience I'll have going forward will ever be able to replicate watching No Way Home opening day. The amount of excitement and thrill of watching this amazing concept of seeing the live-action Spider-Verses collide is a once-in-a-lifetime type thrill. But beyond the excitement of seeing this whole Spider-Verse concept, at its core, the filmmakers remembered to make a great movie here, and remember the emotional undertones in the stories about sacrifice that made those original Spider-Man stories so powerful. Powerful indeed, which is why No Way Home is the top dog of the MCU's Phase 4. So there you have it with my rank of all the films in the MCU's Phase 4. Like I said, just films, no TV shows or anything like that. That's a separate video that you can see the link for it but down below. So yeah, you see that a lot of people were sort of mixed on the Marvel's Phase 4, concluding with Black Panther Wakanda Forever. It's kind of a mixed bag in most people's eyes. And you'll see that in terms of my opinions, that definitely holds true. Because I definitely was not very enthusiastic at all about Black Widow, was kind of meh about Thor Love and Thunder, and Eternals, and even Shang-Chi to some degree. I definitely did love Wakanda Forever and Spider-Man No Way Home, and I guess Multiverse of Madness I liked more than most people, but yeah, you can see that's a mixed bag in terms of opinion. However, I will say that in terms of people just ranging down on Phase 4, just hammering in terms of it wasn't very good, you have to remember that a previous phase, like Marvel's Phase 2, out of those 6 movies, 2 of them were Iron Man 3 and Thor the Dark World, and I don't think anyone would hardly call those any of their favorite Marvel movies. I think that's sort of the issue with Phase 4, is that it seemed kind of aimless and not really working towards a bigger picture story in terms of our overall threat, our main villain, seeing these stories connect in a meaningful way, and there definitely were some pretty out there concepts in Phase 4. However, I think you'll see, and even I think the filmmakers and even Kevin Feige has sort of showcased this, that things will start to make more sense going into Phase 5, with the first film being Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and we can already see that the sort of main villain of Phase 5, and I guess Phase 4, this whole, what they're calling the multiverse saga compared to the Infinity Saga, when you have Kang the Conqueror being an Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, that we'll start to see the big picture story come together in a more meaningful way. But as for right now, Phase 4, definitely a mixed bag, but it definitely did have some stuff I really did enjoy. And like I said, this was just the films. That's not even counting what I thought about some of the TV shows, like WandaVision and What If. I mean, some of that stuff was amazing right there. So that'll do it for this ranking video. If you made it to the end, thank you for watching.